Hi folks, and welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. It has been a really, really long time since I've put anything on this channel. Uh, Multiple reasons. Biggest one is I felt like I was just repeating what everybody else was hearing out there. And I had started it for mental health reasons, as in I had someplace to vent and scream and yell in cyberspace, and nobody else was going to talk back to me. It was just going to go out into thingy. But everything's been going sideways lately. Cost of living is absolutely atrocious. I mean, I just had work done on my car, $3,600, knock on wood to my sort of ex, my separated husband, who said, don't worry about it, Bev, I'll cover it. Now, I paid for half of it, but he paid a little bit more than half of it. And then I came home. Counted my blessings that I have a friend who will do that because I'm self-employed. I go from person's house to person's house, so without my car, I'm completely. And then I punched up my dear old tablet, sat down to have my lovely cup of coffee and relax, and happened to find this. Surprise, surprise, it has something to do with education. And it's from a teacher. And I'd like to read it to you because we in Canada like to, oh my God, everything's terrible. And when I was talking to the lady at the shop, when I was paying for my car, I said, we're not as bad as the U.S. And she said, not by any stretch, but not by any stretch. This comes from a teacher in the United States. I don't check homework first. I check their fingertips. Blue means the heat's off. Purple means they walk to school. Mrs. Reed, are we staying inside for recess? Jaden looked at me when he asked. Didn't look at me when he asked. He was staring at his sneakers, vibrating. Not shivering, vibrating. He was wearing a windbreaker, the kind you buy at a dollar store for a drizzly day in April. But this wasn't April. This was November, in the Midwest, and the wind outside was stripping the paint off the siding. No indoor recess today, Bud, I said, watching his shoulders collapse. I teach first grade, 6-year-olds. My contract says that I teach phonics, basic arithmetic, and reading. Reality says I'm a social worker, a nurse, and a warm body in a cold system. By Halloween, my 6-year-olds know the price of gas. They knew that inflation is the reason Mummy cries in the kitchen when she thinks everyone's asleep. They knew why they were wearing their big brother's coat, even if the sleeves hung down to their knees. But Jade didn't even have a brother's coat. He sat on his hands during circle time, and he told me he wasn't hungry at lunch because his hands were too tired to hold the sandwich. That was it. That was the line. I didn't go home at 3 p.m. I drove to the local thrift shop. I had $40 in my wallet that was supposed to go to my car insurance. I spent every dime. I didn't buy school supplies. I bought coats. A puffy blue one, a red one with heavy hood, a camel printed one that looked brand new. And the next morning, I dragged a clothing rack from Lost and Found into the back of my classroom. I hung the coats up. I taped a sign above it. I did not say charity bin. In this country, even a 6-year-old knows the shame of needing a handout. Pride is the first thing we teach them. It's the hardest thing to break. So I wrote coat library. Rules: borrow what you need. Return when you're warm. No library cards are required. And for 2 days, that rack sat there untouched. The kids eyed it like it was a trap. They'd been taught that nothing's free in this world. They knew there was always a catch, a form to fill out, or a list they have to go on. And then the temperatures started to dip into single digits. Jaden broke the seal. During independent reading, he walked over and he looked at me. I pretended to be busy grading papers, and he grabbed the blue puffer. He put it on. He sat down, and for the first time in a week, he stopped vibrating. By Friday, the coat library was empty. A girl who usually spent recess huddled by the brick wall was running tag in the red hood. 2 boys were taking turns wearing the camo jacket. One wore it out, the other wore it in. Rock, paper, scissors for the hood. I'd hear them whisper. They were negotiating warmth, like it was a currency. Then came the moment that gutted me. We got a new student, Maya. Her friend had just moved in from a warmer state to flee high rents. She came in wearing a denim jacket over a t-shirt. Her lips were almost white. She stood in front of the empty rack. There was one coat left, a purple Parker I had brought in from my own attic. She reached for it and then pulled her hand back, and she looked at Jaden. I don't have a card, she whispered. My mom said we can't sign up for anything else. We don't have the papers. She thought warmth was a subscription she couldn't afford. She thought she needed to qualify to not freeze. And I knelt down. Mia, look at me. She froze, terrified that she was in trouble. The Coat Library isn't like other libraries, I said, my voice shaking just a little. You don't need papers. You don't need money. You just need to be cold. She put the coat on, and then she buried her face in the collar and just breathed. I thought that was the end of it. But kindness is the only thing more contagious than flu in a first grade classroom. The following Monday, I unlocked my door and tripped over a bag. It was a black garbage bag, smelling of fabric softener. Inside were 5 winter coats, good ones, brands I can't afford. There was a note scribbled on the back of a utility bill envelope. My son said the library was low in stock. We don't have much, but we have extra. A month. By Wednesday, the janitor had wheeled in a second rack. Found it in the basement, he winked. Figured you're expanding. By Friday, we had boots. We had snow pants. We had a box of hand warmers dropped off by the guys from the auto shop down the street. The mayor's office called yesterday. They heard about the coat teacher, and they wanted to come down, take a picture, and maybe give me a certificate. They want to show how the community is resilient. I said no. I told them we were busy learning compound words. I didn't tell them the truth, that I don't want a certificate. I want my students' parents to be able to afford heat. I want a world where a 6-year-old doesn't have to borrow coats to survive recess. But until that world exists, room 104 will stay open. Yesterday, I watched Jaden help Maya zip up her coat. It's a library, he told her seriously. That means we share. We're living in a time where everyone is shouting. We argue about politics and budgets and whose fault is it that everything costs so much. We scream at strangers on the internet while our neighbors quietly freeze. But in my class, it's simple. If you're cold, you get a coat. No forms, no judgment, no politics, just warmth. That's the part of the Americans that's wonderful and fantastic. And I pray that as things that are happening in the United States is impacting us in Canada, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. We have to be an idiot to argue that. But at the same time, our American friends, as much as we want to at them, they are suffering like there's no tomorrow. Minneapolis is an excellent example. Nobody's doing anything except for being there, and we have people who have been murdered by the ICE agents. We have the Minnesota mom. I think she's the Minnesota mom. She's a quirky, she's an opera singer, and she dresses up like her granny and her mom from the 60s and makes salads that shouldn't be salads. And it's all comedy. It's hilarious, but she's in tears. She's literally in tears. And there's another lady, she's always very close up on her camera, and she sits in a bigger overstuffed chair, and one of her links is the cat lady. But she was literally in tears too. She has been in tears. And I've gotten DMs from people going, please tell people to not come to the United States. It's not safe here. Save yourselves. Stay away from the States. This is coming from, no, I wouldn't say friends, because friends are people I take out for a coffee, but they're people that I chit-chat and message to across the States. So please put your heart on, put your prayers on and your thoughts in for the people in British Columbia. Just had our first school shooting ever in Canadian history, like mass school shooting. And for all those people in the United States, whether they voted for Trump or not, they honestly didn't realize it would be this bad. So my heart goes out to all our Canadian friends and relatives in British Columbia who are suffering, for all of us who might be scared to walk into the school system right now because, oh my God, this is happening. This happened in Canada. We have had the occasional school shooting, but it's usually a targeted one, especially in the TO. GTA area. So one guy's out for one guy kind of mentality, but this was 10. And please think and send your thoughts and prayers to everyone in this United States that is suffering in multiple ways, not just Minnesota, but they don't know how they're putting food on the table. And here's an example. They don't know how they're going to keep themselves warm. YouTube channels left, right, and center about how to survive a winter with no heat. And I get that out of the UK too. But having lived in the UK, yes, I know for them it's cold, but it's not as cold as it is in the Midwest or here in the GTA areas. So anyways, take care. Hopefully I'll get back on and I'm around. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share.